Everyone, and welcome to this video tutorial in which I'm going to be talking you through how to apply the law on attempted murder to a criminal law scenario similar to what you're going to be facing in your A-level law exams. So the scenario that we've got to think about today involves a character called Maria, and Maria finds out that her husband Steve is having an affair. Maria puts poison in Steve's spaghetti, but then panics and throws it away. The next day, Maria puts some rat poison into Steve's coffee, but it has no effect. Discuss Maria's criminal liability. Now, in this situation, we can see from the limited facts that we've got, although it appears that Maria has tried to kill Steve, she's not managed to. He's not dead because the poison has no effect. So the fact she's tried to kill him but hasn't managed it should hopefully be telling you that you need to be applying the law on attempts or attempted murder. So we're going to take a look at how you would get a good answer to this question. Trying to tackle a scenario, obviously it's really important that you've revised the law of the topic that you're trying to apply. So I've got a little tip for you here. When you're revising an area such as attempts or attempted murder, it's useful to go back, do a little refresher before you try and apply the law to a scenario. I've done a little example revision table here. And what I would advise is, if you're a bit rusty on attempts, check out the other videos on my channel in which I go through all of the law and all of the cases on attempts. And this little table here gives you some tips for what you should be looking for. So defining the actus reus, the mens rea, listing some cases on the actus reus, case on the mens rea, and cases and a section on attempting the impossible. And once you're totally familiar again with attempts, we then need to look at how you would go about structuring all of this knowledge to answer the Maria scenario. To apply the law on attempts to a scenario question, you need to follow the idea structure in order to maximise your chances of getting full marks on the scenario. So IDEA stands for the different steps that you need to take. So firstly, you need to identify the potential offence and your defendant and victim. You then need to define the offence that you've identified as being relevant. Explain the offence that you've defined using cases for the actus reus and cases for the mens rea, and then you need to apply that law that you've just explained to your characters. And in order to apply effectively, you need to start by saying whether your defendant meets the actus reus and how you know that they do, and whether they meet the mens rea, and again how you know that they do, and then conclude with the likely outcome and a possible sentence. That's always a nice way to conclude a scenario. On this slide here, I've put a suggested answer for the Maria scenario following that idea structure that I've just outlined. Now, I've written in a very bullet pointy style here just for the purposes of this video. You, of course, need to write in full sentences and explain all of the cases when you're writing in an exam. What I've done on this slide is I've colour-coded it. So the I, the D, the E and the A from our structure idea are in red font. And then I've colour-coded anything to do with the actus reus is green, anything to do with the mens rea is blue, and I've also put cases in purple just so that they stand out for you. So I've started by identifying that our defendant Maria might be liable for the attempted murder of Steve. And then I'm going to define attempt, which is the offence that I've identified above. So I'm going to define the actus reus first. So the actus reus of an attempt is that our defendant must do an act which is more than merely preparatory to the commission of an offence, and the mens rea is that they must have the intent to commit the offence. And that comes from section 1.1 of the Criminal Attempts Act. Now that we've defined the actus reus and mens rea, we need to explain that actus reus and mens rea further using our cases. So a key case to start off with is the case of Gulliver. And in that case, Lord Lane famously said that the defendant must have, quote, embarked upon the crime proper. That's his definition, if you like, of what is more than merely preparatory to the commission of an offence. So attempts is a little bit problematic in that we've got this more than merely preparatory. We're not entirely clear what that means. The judge has then given us another definition to try and make it clearer. To be honest, it doesn't help a whole lot because there's a whole host of cases after Gulliver. For example, Boyle and Boyle, Tosti and White, Jones, Campbell, Geddes. All of these cases talk about at what point our defendant can be said to have embarked upon the crime proper. So in the exam, you just need to briefly outline the facts of those cases just to illustrate in what sort of situations our defendant is going to have done an act which is more than merely preparatory to the commission of an offence. Once you've dealt with those more than merely preparatory cases, you need to explain the fact, it's still relevant to the actus reus, that our defendant can be guilty of attempting to commit the impossible. And that comes from the case of White and also is enshrined in the legislation in section 1, subsection 2 of the Criminal Attempts Act. And if you recall, attempting to commit the impossible is a really interesting idea because it's the rule that if you try to do something, even if it's physically impossible for you to do it, you can still be guilty of attempting to do it. So, for example, if I decide to kill my husband by giving him Smarties because I genuinely think Smarties are poison, obviously that's not going to kill him. But as long as we can show that I intended to kill him and I've attempted to kill him, I've embarked upon the crime proper, the fact that it's physically impossible to kill someone with Smarties is irrelevant. But that's quite a difficult thing to get your head around at first. But that rule was confirmed in the case of Shiv Puri, which overruled an earlier case, Anderton and Ryan. And then explain the mens rea of attempted murder. That's quite straightforward. So the mens rea of attempted murder is intention to kill, Y-brow. So there's a higher level of mens rea for attempts than there is actually for murder. Because for murder, the mens rea is intention to kill or intention to commit GBH. But for attempts, only intention to kill is sufficient. And that comes from Y-brow. So we've identified, we've defined, we've explained with our cases. We then need to A, apply it back to Maria. So looking at the actus reus, what Maria has done, my tip is to go through the scenario and talk about each thing that your defendant does in order. And then you shouldn't get in a muddle and you shouldn't miss anything important out. So the first thing that Maria does is Maria poisons the spaghetti. And you could say that she possibly meets the actus reus for attempts at this point because she's embarked upon the crime proper, it seems, like Gulliver. However, she then throws the spaghetti away. She doesn't actually give it to Steve. So it's more likely it's just mere preparation at this point. So I'm concluding on the spaghetti that although she has intention to kill when she poisons the spaghetti, there's no crime at this point. It's just preparation because she hasn't given it to Steve. Maria then puts rat poison into Steve's coffee. Now this is more than merely preparatory, that's what MMP stands for. She's clearly embarked on the crime proper, she's put it in the coffee, and this time she's given it to Steve. Now it doesn't matter that the poison has no effect on Steve because we can apply section 1.2 that it's possible to attempt the impossible. So we can use White, Shiv Puri and Section 1.2 to back us up and say, even though she's attempting the impossible, that's still going to be sufficient for this offence. So I've applied the actus reus. I mustn't forget to apply the mens rea. Maria intends to kill because she's angry about the affair, so she meets the mens rea Y-brow. And it's clear that if you're putting rat poison in someone's coffee and giving it to them, it's very clear that you're intending to kill them. And I've concluded, therefore, Maria is guilty of the attempted murder of Steve when she poisons the coffee, even though it has no effect on Steve. Okay, so I hope that little video was helpful for you in showing you how to approach an attempts question. Remember that I do have other videos on my channel on how to apply attempts, and also some videos on evaluating the law on attempts, and some videos that go through the cases and all the rules. So do watch those as well.